Start with a quick story that Bernard's cello told me as we were going to Sunday service last Sunday. So this Sunday morning, a mother shouting up to her son saying, hurry up, we're going to be late for church. And the son shouts down, oh mum, I don't want to go this week. And the mum says, I don't want to go either, but you're the pastor, come on. Luckily I don't feel like that today. Starting to feel like West Midlands and Birmingham's my home. I'm coming here more and more, and I love being here and spending time with you all. So thank you so much for coming today and taking time out of your Sundays and your weekends to come and worship and engage in fellowship together. Today's talk is about pruning and growth, but I must say that I'm not a gardener. I am horrendous with plants, really bad. But hopefully I can try and convey a spiritual message related to planting trees and looking after a harvest. So me and Kyle bought our home about 3 years ago now, and we were in this bug of renovation, and I decided to try and make a planter in my garden. And originally I planned it to be a rectangle, but as it turned out, it turned into more of a rhombus. I was lopsided, and my dad had to come and undo all the screws and put it back together again. That should have been an omen that garden is not for me, but I decided to go ahead with this project anyway, and we wanted to be a bit more sustainable, so we decided to plant fruits and vegetables. We started with a broccoli plant, which cost about £6, and every day then slugs were eating this broccoli plant, and Kyan every night would go out and flick all these slugs off, and then we decided to buy a net for £15. We put this net on, and Kyan went on holiday then, and it was down to me to flick these slugs off. They still found a way to go under the net, and I put hours into this broccoli plant, and guess how many broccolis I got at the end of last summer? One. So I felt like a complete waste of time, but when you know, an organic broccoli could be probably about 60p at the time, maybe about £1.20 now. But all that effort then, I felt like, what is this for? And I just want to start this talk by saying that, I'm not that great at gardening. So then what we did, we thought, okay, let's look online and let's see what fruits and vegetables we can grow. And apparently lettuce is really easy, low maintenance, so we had a go at that. And it did grow really well. But do you know what the problem with growing lettuce is?
Slugs like it.
Slugs like it. But you have to eat the lettuce afterwards. That's the problem. We had all this lettuce, and we kept the slugs off. Then we thought, what do we do with all this lettuce now? We have to eat it ourselves. And to be honest with you, in terms of like sports performance, you want high fibrous vegetables. Asparagus, broccoli, cauliflower, green beans, not lettuce. So we decided to give up the gardening. But today's talk is from John chapter 15, where hopefully I could try and convey that God does not give up on his garden. And I'm going to use the analogy that we are the branches attached to God's vine, or to God's trunk, and that God as the Almighty gardener will not give up on us, as I did on our broccoli and lettuces. Or lettuce, not sure what the plural is there, sorry. Let me read from John 15. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away, and every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring more fruit. Now you are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you. As a branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abides in the vine. No more can you, except you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He that abides in me, and I in him, the same brings forth much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. If a man abides not in me, he is cast forth as a branch, and is withered, and men gather them, and cast them into the fire, and they are burnt. So I love this reading from John, where Jesus is explaining that we need to be the vines attached onto God's branch, and that we need to be with our Heavenly Parent within our daily lives. But what John repeatedly mentions in this passage and throughout his chapters is this word abide. And actually the English language doesn't do much justice to the Bible. As part of my Bible studies, I've been trying to look into these common words that appear frequently and to look at their original meanings. And abide in Greek comes from the word meno, which means to be fully invested into something, to be certain and to be stable within something. And it has links to the root word of mansion. So in the context of this reading then, what John is saying that is we must abide in God. That does not just mean just to follow God, just to believe in God, just to come to a worship service once a week and that's me done with God then for the next week. But what it means is that we really have to be rooted in God. We need to be in God's mansion, and everything that we do is fully and wholeheartedly invested in God. And what I also like about this reading is that not only are we abiding in God, but God is abiding in us. So we give God a space to be rooted within ourselves. We need to make ourselves a home where God can dwell. We need to be a temple for God to be within us. And through this relationship then we can settle in God. We can wholeheartedly be in an intimate relationship with God, and He's fully part of our lives and our existence. And it's really beautiful that, sorry, I've got a really bad cold today. It's really beautiful that Jesus reminds us that we cannot exist without God. The reason why we are on this earth is to find God and to bring God joy through being in a relationship with Him through the things we do. And this word meno is so powerful. It also means through existing in something, then it brings meaning. So through our existence then, our lives can have meaning with God. God gives us meaning and God gives us life. Interestingly as well, John talks about then being fruitful and how we need to be fruitful first. Does anyone know the purpose of a branch? What would be the purpose of a branch?
Bear fruit. Yeah.
Okay, that is, if I was back in my classroom now, I would say that is a really good wrong answer. Because it brings discussion and a chance to learn. So the purpose of the branch is not to bear fruit. The purpose of the branch is to coexist with the tree and to provide nutrition, to be one with the tree, to fulfill its role and responsibilities, to photosynthesize, to provide energy, and to be in this relationship with the tree so it can coexist together. So what Jesus is saying here is that we have to be fruitful first. And as Father Moon explains, that being fruitful is the first blessing, which is actually achieving mind-body unity, not reproducing. So through God we need to unite ourselves. We need to unite our true desires centered on God's will, what God wants us to do. And through uniting ourselves, taking ownership of our bodies, then through fully committing ourselves to God, we can then bear fruits naturally. If we're centered on goodness, then our actions will produce goodness. And in Matthew 8:18, he says, "A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit." So if we're fully centered on God, we're fully centered on this goodness, then our fruits will naturally be good and wholesome and juicy. So this is a reminder then that not only that we have to be in God's mansion and God needs to be in our mansions, but then we need to unite ourselves centered on goodness, which comes from God, so then our fruits can also be good and wholesome. Interestingly, we had our theological seminars recently across the region. So the three blessings, the three purpose of our lives is to be fruitful, multiply, and then take ownership and have dominion of the things around us. But what I've realized through these studies is that these three things are not linear. You don't just be fruitful first, okay, then you can move on to reproducing and having a family. Then once you have your family, you can take dominion. These things work together in motion. For example, Kyle's giving birth in 3 weeks, and I have nowhere near achieved my full fruitfulness. No way am I fully united my mind and body yet we've had the chance, to create a family and to move on to the next steps of our lives. So this relationship of having mind-body unity, being fruitful, and then taking ownership and dominion is circular, and they work together with each other. But the starting point is God, which means that we have to start within ourselves to unite with God and to control our desires, and for us to really have this mind-body unity then. So it starts with us and God, and then things can follow and develop onwards. Interestingly, also as part of mind-body unity or being fruitful, this idea of purging and removing of something. And as people of faith, can be difficult for us to try and look inwards and remove things which we aren't proud of, and to remove bad habits and sin that we may carry around with us. So to break the ice, Viola's going to share with us something she wants to remove. It's a joke, by the way, Viola. That would make Sunday service very awkward if we all went round and started sharing intimate parts of ourselves that we want to remove. But my point is that I'm sure we all have parts of ourselves that we'd rather hide and not express. But we know that they're there, and that we need to try and change some of our habits, our thought patterns and actions. And we're reminded that if we're not spiritually alive, then we must be spiritually dead. And Jesus put it very clearly that the spiritually dead branches get burnt, then they aren't useful in the kingdom of God, which is it's very harsh and very, very clear, but it reminds us that we need to be people who can be useful in society, and we can be useful for God to do good in the world and to do good for other people. So it's a reminder that we need to connect to God's holiness, and we need to bring life through that then. And I find it's also very interesting that we're reminded that we have to try and remove some of these aspects of ourselves, and often we're limiting ourselves through our own limiting beliefs and perhaps some of our past experiences that we carry around with us. And interestingly, in child psychology, for the first 3 or 4 years of a child's life, they're developing all these motor neurons, and their brain activity is through the roof. But naturally, it's called synaptic purging. When the child then becomes 6, 7, 8 years old, their motor neurons become more efficient, and actually they decrease then. So many of our childhood experiences we carry around with us, and this is a possible explanation. But we can really limit ourselves through the experiences we've had, some of our difficulties. And as we grow older, as we mature, as part of being fruitful then is reconciling with yourself, understanding yourself, and loving yourself more than centered on God's goodness, so we can go forth, multiply, and have dominion on the world around us then, and make a true positive impact. So I'd just like to finish by saying, or leaving you with the question of what kind of branch are you? What you provide into the tree that you connect to, and what kind of fruits then do you bear based on this relationship with the tree? So thank you very much.
Thank you.